I've said it before and I'll say it again, I'm not the biggest fan of romance. Rarely do these popular romance books that everyone raves about actually make me feel the connection between the characters. And this isn't just a one-time thing. It happens almost every time I pick up a romance book, which is exactly why I have a bone to pick with this genre and why I'm making this video. Because I genuinely feel like romance books aren't romantic anymore. So today, as both a reader and an aspiring author, I want to talk about why that is, the element I've realized is shockingly missing in these stories, and I will also recommend a few movies, shows, and books that actually got the romance right in my opinion. Welcome to the channel and podcast where I ramble about stories mostly in books and occasionally in music and movies. If you're interested in discussing these things, then make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. Now, let's get into it. So I've compiled a list of the 5 main problems I find in modern romance books. And maybe some of you who are big fans of this genre won't agree with me about them, but honestly, that's the fun part about this, right? We all have different opinions. Now, the first problem I want to talk about is the lack of an actually well-developed plot. Sure, the premise might sound interesting with the tropes involved, but the delivery and the execution of the story is often done badly. And most of the time, the plot becomes only the romance. While that's technically the point of the story, for me, it ends up feeling bland. We stop caring about the world around the characters or who these characters are outside of their relationship, and as a result, the story feels forgettable. The second problem is chapters with the male main character's POV. I've mentioned it before in a previous video, actually in 2 previous videos up until this point, but it's worth bringing up again, and I wouldn't talk about it if it wasn't so annoying to me, but it's that male main characters in modern romance are often written so poorly. Their chapters are filled with nothing but objectifying thoughts and endless drooling over the female main character. Attraction just isn't enough to show a real connection. It ends up making these male characters feel so one-dimensional, like they have no depth beyond being a stereotypical macho prince charming, whatever that means. And this makes me not like these characters at all. The third problem is that just like these books often try to make up with the lack of plot with a pile of tropes, they also try to make up for the romance with an overload of spice. Now, I don't mind spice in books. With it or without it, it's fine. But when it's overdone, I start wondering what's the point of the story. And by the way, this isn't me saying that it's wrong if you do enjoy it. You do you. But when I pick up a romance, I expect the emotional aspects of the relationship to be explored. Physical attraction is part of it, sure, but it shouldn't overshadow the emotional journey the characters are going through. When that happens, it just makes the characters feel shallow. Now, the fourth problem is predictability. And yes, I get it. What makes these books so appealing, or part of what makes these books so appealing, is that they offer a sense of safety and escapism. And I love that too. Knowing I'm picking up a story that ends up happily can be comforting. And happy ending is great. The book being overly predictable ruins the fun of it. I noticed that when I'm reading these books, I don't feel the urge to keep reading, to find out what happens next. It starts to feel more like a chore. And the fifth problem might actually surprise some people, because I know how much readers love this one, but it's having dual POVs. It's a little shocking. I told you it's gonna be shocking. For me, being in these male characters' thoughts, especially reading all those icky, objectifying thoughts of his, at least in my opinion, those are icky and objectifying again. It just makes me lose interest. I stop rooting for the guy and honestly, I start judging him instead. The books I've actually loved in this genre, almost all of them, stick to a single POV. And usually it's the female characters. In my opinion, that works so much better. Having only the female POV also keeps the mystery and tension alive. We experience the male character along with her. And the emotional reveal at the end works so much better, which is exactly what is required of a good romance to give that very well done payoff at the end. So now that I've gone over the main problems I find in modern romance, I want to talk about the one thing that's actually missing, the element that usually makes stories feel romantic. And we all know of this element, or rather this concept, and that is yearning, especially on the part of the male characters. You might already be thinking, but they do yearn. He makes her favorite meal, notices things without her saying. He's obsessed with her. What do you mean he doesn't yearn? And to that I say, No, that's not yearning. At least not in the way I define it. Yearning, as a definition, is a feeling of intense longing for something, typically something that one has been separated from or that is unattainable. Do these male characters really long for the female lead? Usually not. Most of their thoughts are focused on what they want to do with her physically, and they often act very forward, sometimes too forward, stepping over the line into possessiveness or rude behavior. And again, that's not yearning. To me, yearning is caring for someone, longing for them, and doing right by them without expecting anything in return. But in many modern romances, male characters throw tantrums, don't know how to handle their feelings, and the female lead has to step in when things don't go their way. And we're expected to view that as attractive? To give you great examples of yearners we probably all know, I will present to you this man. Might I say he's the inventor of yearning? And this man who has been more recently introduced to the yearning community. And even this man, I mean, look at this scene.
Great. Of course, Caroline's a much better rider than I am. Of course.
And this is also where the overuse of spice becomes a problem. When the characters get together too quickly, there's no space for true longing to develop. And the female main characters also play a role in this issue because they are written to spoon over the bare minimum. Just because their previous partner treated them horribly, it doesn't mean that the new guy who treats them slightly less badly is suddenly amazing. Like, have some actual standards, girl. Now, let's move on before I rant about this for the rest of the video, because trust me, I will if I don't stop myself from doing that. So for me, yearning is the solution. And I know I'm not the only one who thinks that. And I mean, just look at how popular and beloved this concept of yearning has become. But why? What makes yearning so good? For me, there are three main reasons. First of all, when we look at people like Mr. Darcy or Anthony Bridgerton or even Mr. Bingley, we can tell that these men value the women they love not just for the physical attraction they feel toward them, but for who they are. They admire their strength, their character, their views. They're so fond of them that they genuinely want them to be happy, even if that means they might not be part of that happiness. Like when Mr. Darcy said this.
Surely you must know it was all for you. Your feelings are still what they were last April. Tell me so at once. My affections and wishes have not changed. But one word from you will silence me forever.
And when that kind of intention comes from a male character, there's a certain trust and respect we begin to have for him. A saying that's been popular online that perfectly sums this up is a man who yearns is a man who earns. And I love it because it's so true. Second, because I was saying earlier that the plots of these romances are predictable and rarely make us ask will they, won't they, yearning completely solves that problem. By definition, it's about longing for something one is not sure they'll ever have, and that alone makes the story more exciting to read. It brings back that element of mystery and anticipation. It also gives the story higher stakes, which is something that romantasy does so well, for example. Usually, while romance is a big part of these romantasy books, there's also a quest or challenge the characters have to face, and that adds risk, uncertainty, and tension. Something that is missing in romance, and I feel like yearning would help with that. To go back to the example of Pride and Prejudice, which did this right, I was not sure if Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth will actually end up together when I first read the book. And this proves how yearning in that book actually helped create that tension and uncertainty and that anticipation that made me want to read more. And third, and most importantly, yearning makes the romance more believable. When we get to follow the characters' journey as they slowly build a real connection, getting to know each other and growing alongside one another, we feel the depth of their relationship and we start rooting for them. And that's the whole point of romance, right? To highlight the love story. When yearning is present, every glance, every touch, every moment feels charged. The characters are terrified of saying the wrong thing or making the wrong move. One touch can keep them awake at night and thinking about that moment over and over again. And to me, that's how a truly romantic story is told. Of course, I can't let you go without giving you some actual good recommendations, stories where the romance really worked. Now, these are just based on my own taste, so I can't promise you'll love them too. But chances are, if you're watching this video and if you agree with most of the points I've made so far, you'll probably like them. Now, if you have your own favorites, please comment them below. I'm always looking for new stories to check out, and especially romance stories that actually have good romance. Now, let's start with movies and TV shows, which I've already talked about, both of the ones that I want to recommend for you. Obviously, Pride and Prejudice, specifically the 2005 version. It's a classic. If you want to see yearning done right, that's the one to watch. And then of course, Bridgerton season 2. I feel like those two are perfect examples of how powerful a story can be when yearning is used as the main emotional tool. Now, for books, as you already know, a lot of the romance books I've read didn't really work for me, but the few I have loved really stuck with me. First is Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. It follows a woman who's recently divorced, trying to rediscover herself, and she finds herself in this unexpected summer romance. It's written entirely in her perspective, which I adored. There's that tension, that will it work out feeling, and it's so well done. It's kind of closed door if you're not into heavy spice. Next is a lighter, fun read, and it's called The Love of My Afterlife by Kirsty Greenwood. It's about a woman who ends up in the afterlife and meets a stranger there she falls in love with. He somehow gets sent back to Earth, and she makes a deal to return to, and only if she finds him and kisses him with a certain number of days, she gets to keep her life. It's such a fun story about self-discovery and taking chances. The romance is adorable, a bit cheesy, but I personally loved it. And again, it's only from the female main character's POV, which adds that sense of mystery and adventure and a lot of fun, goofy time to the story. And the last one I want to recommend for this video is a book that I read this year that has one of my favorite love stories, even though it's not a romance, by the way, and it's called Pictures of You by Emma Gray. It's more of a mystery, and it's about a woman who wakes up after a car accident with no memory of who she is. She thinks she's still 16. I know, amnesia trope, not a lot of people love that one, but still, it was so worth it, so hear me out. But she's actually 29 and married, and her husband, who was with her in the car, didn't end up making it. As she starts to piece things together, she reconnects with an old friend who helps her navigate everything, and that's where the love story unfolds. It's in dual POV, and this time, the male perspective actually works. It's emotional, it's respectful, and full of genuine yearning. The story jumps between past and present, showing how their relationship developed over time. Now, it's not a perfect book, especially the way things got wrapped up, but still, the romance is beautifully done. It actually made me root for them, which is rare for me in this genre. So there you have it, why I think romance books aren't romantic anymore, and why yearning is the key to fixing that. Of course, these are just my opinions, so I'd love to know yours. Do you agree that romance isn't as compelling as it used to be? And if yes, what do you think are the reasons behind that? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss future videos, and check out the podcast version of Once Upon a Ramble on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. And if you want to connect more, you can follow me on my Instagram and my TikTok, linked in the description below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate it so much. And yeah, we'll meet again next week. Mwah. Bye.